Okay, welcome folks to our first honors program colloquium of the spring 2024 season. I'm very excited to introduce our first speaker, who's going to be speaking to us on the topic of cybersecurity, and that is Abdallah Farraj, who is an associate professor of electrical engineering at A&M Texarkana and is head of the engineering part of our RELLIS extension campus. I don't know if that's entirely correct in terms of nomenclature, but it gets to the right area. So he will go ahead and give his presentation, and then we should have some time for questions. So I will turn it over to you, Dr. Farraj.
All right, thank you. All right, can I share? You are on mute now.
Yeah, I just realized that, sorry. Let me go ahead and do that. All right, you should be able to share now.
You guys see my screen?
Yep, looks good.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to this quick talk about cybersecurity. So my name is Abdallah Farraj, and happy to be here. So just have a background on this talk. So a background about myself. So I'm an associate professor of electrical engineering at the RELLIS campus. Now you might be wondering, where is this RELLIS campus? So here we are at the bottom of the map. We're just about 5 hours driving from Texarkana, and we're just outside College Station. Our campus is about 10 miles away from Texas A&M College Station main campus. So we're local to the area. And I have PhD electrical engineering from Texas A&M. My specialty was communication and signal processing. And I'm a professional engineer in Ontario, Canada. And I have published a good amount of research in security and resilience of industrial and cyber physical systems, and worked a couple of years in industrial cybersecurity consulting. So my last job before coming here was in consulting in cybersecurity, especially for industrial clients. So my goal from this presentation is to hopefully get you curious about industrial cybersecurity. And yeah, feel free to stop me anytime. So industrial control systems, you might be wondering, what's that? So what's an industrial system? It's a device or a collection of devices that manage, command, direct, regulate the behavior of other devices or systems. So you can think of it as a device that influences the real world, or a device or system that bridges the gap between cyber data and physical real life. So think of the automation. Why do we have automation? Get more work out of less people, provide feedback and action to regulate process, have devices, actuate things to process stuff. So just you might be wondering, where do you see those industrial systems? Well, all over us. So your thermostat at home, what does it do? Turn on, off the furnace or the AC, to regulate the temperature at your place. It's like automated assembly line, chemical reactors, oil and gas pipelines, power plants, water treatment plants, railway signaling system, aircraft flight control, HVAC systems, fire suppression systems, and many other examples. Okay, so what's so special about industrial control system that we need to think about them separately? So what's the difference between IT systems, the computers and stuff, versus the industrial control systems, or we like to call them OT systems, operational technology? What's the difference between IT and OT? Well, IT is more about the data, information processing and communication. The OT system, and on the other hand, it's more like this designed to control and automation of physical devices and processes. So the IT system is like a dynamic system, while the OT system is more like deterministic, because there's a process that you have to repeat over and over. In IT, you have data as a priority, but for OT, it's a process control, and being up and running is more priority. In IT, you have more connections to internet, while OT, it's kind of more limited. In IT, you care about confidentiality of data. In OT, you care more about availability of the data. Patching and updating your system is important for IT systems, while for OT systems, it's you have to wait You could have older technologies in OT systems, but in IT systems, you have like TCP/IP. IT systems, you have computers, servers, printers, phones, while for OT systems, you have SCADA systems, PLCs, motors, historians, a human machine interface, and that stuff. So different systems, complexity is different, and the angle to security is different. And the catastrophic result of a security incident might be different as well. So what happens when a system like an industrial control system fails? Lost production, penalties, lawsuits, loss of public trust, injuries, loss of life, environmental damage, and you name it. Here's an example for you, like the Northeast blackout 2003. So it happened to like Northeast US and in Ontario, and there you have millions of people who lost power. More than 500 generation units were out of service. Water systems lost pressure, at least 10 deaths, and other things. So what really happened? It's a cyber physical system here, like it's an industrial control system that failed, and there were many chances to stop the propagation of the incident, but those chances were missed. Okay, so this is what I deal with, the industrial systems. So just to bring the angle back to cybersecurity, so you might be asking yourself, what does this guy mean by cybersecurity? So the cybersecurity, when we talk about it, is just technologies, the processes, practices, the teams that are in place to protect computer systems from information theft, damage, disruption, or unauthorized access. Now, cybersecurity is a very dynamic field. The technology is very dynamic. The threats are very dynamic as well. So the training for employees is like ongoing, and it's like more like a race against time, because the attackers and their methods are changing all the time. In cybersecurity, you really think about the CIA triad when it comes to protecting the data, which is protecting confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So protecting confidentiality is like you want to ensure your information is only accessible to authorized people. Somebody who has a right to access data. Confidentiality ensures that this person achieves that objective. I don't have authority to achieve that data, to access that data. Confidentiality ensures that I don't get access. Integrity, on the other hand, its objective is to maintain, the accuracy and reliability of the information. And availability, it's to ensure that information and systems are accessible when needed. So these three legs of the stool are not really independent of each other. So they are interconnected, and infringe on one of them could lead to an infringe on the other. And even like a confidentiality incident could lead to a cyber attack that targets the integrity of the data. So who are our enemies? Or who are we trying to protect our systems from? The threat actors or the adversaries. So the adversaries in general, like they are threat actors, so they have resources and goals, and they exploit weaknesses in the system to cause some impact. So who are these adversaries and what are their motives? So nation states, without naming names. So their motives, economic and political advantage, organized crime. They want to have like immediate or future financial gains. Hacktivists achieve some political or social change. Insiders, somebody works in an organization. They want to like maybe achieve personal gain or revenge or monetary gain. What type of weaknesses in the system those threat actors exploit? Missing encryption, weak passwords, missing authentication, backdoors in the software bugs, buffer overflow problems, and many others. What type of impacts these people achieve? Theft of information, theft of money, regularity fines, loss of customers, reputation damage, equipment damage, and many others. All right. So as an organization, what do you need to do? You need to protect your system from these threat actors. So you need to put controls in place to achieve that. And there are multitudes of controls, and they achieve different objectives. So you have deterrent controls. So their objective discourage violation of cybersecurity policies. So like what? For example, public awareness, security warnings and label, penetration testing, and visible security measures. Preventative controls, their objective is stop or unwanted activity from occurring. So for example, like you have technologies like firewall, antivirus, data encryption, access control list, and email filtering, and spam blocking, and others. Detective controls, so their objective is to detect, discover unauthorized activity while it's occurring or after it occurred. So like what? You have logs, you monitor the logs, you analyze them, you scan for vulnerabilities, you have endpoint detection and response, intrusion detection, and others. You could have delaying controls, and their objective is to make the attack take longer time or spend more resources to achieve their objective. So, for example, multi-factor authentication, network segmentation, honeypots, data loss prevention. If attack happens, you need corrective and recovery controls. So their objective is to bring the environment to a normal operating state after something happens. So like what? You have here backup, disaster recovery, incident response, vulnerability patching, and forensic analysis. Then finally, you need directive controls, which basically here policies. You need to have security policies, employee training, incident reporting, data privacy regulations, and other like frameworks. Now, you don't just go with one control and say that's it. You need to have layers of security controls. So this is a concept called defense in depth. So it's a holistic approach to security. And here what you do is you have multiple countermeasures aggregated together to improve the security posture of your system. So why? Because if one system breaks or collapses, you have other things to use you can stand on. So for example, from the physical access, where you have biometric and physical access and cards, to the network access, you prevent access from, let's say, like when I was traveling last year, I wasn't able to access some of the systems at Texarkana because they had a rule prevent access from like outside the country. You could have user management like identity access management. You could have data access permission, like not everybody has access to the data. You could have data diodes prevents the data from leaving, or like you prevent data from coming. You have data integrity metrics. You have application layer monitoring, network layer monitoring and firewalls, and human elements. You have awareness and training. So because of the dynamic nature of threats, these layers have to be dynamic as well. So you have to keep updating your systems and training and policies to keep up to date with what's going on outside from attacks point of view. All right. So what happens if there is an incident? So I think the first thing you have to realize, incident will happen. So that's a mentality you need to keep. So incident response literally means the structured approach to address and manage the aftermath of a cybersecurity incident. And it's really vital for organizations to have that, because a well-executed incident plan is crucial in minimizing the impact of the incident and preventing it from occurring again. So how do you think of security incident response? Actually, first thing you have to think about is you need to be prepared. So it's gonna happen. So you need to establish plans and teams that will be activated when an incident is detected. Second step is you identify. So some of the metrics, some of the controls that we talked about is used for identification. You have logs. You can, for example, you have logs, you have SIM that is going to help you identify there is an incident. So you detect and confirm the occurrence of a security incident. Then the next step is to contain. So if there is an incident that's ongoing now, you try to contain it by preventing it from propagating to the rest of the system. The next step is to eradicate the root cause of the incident. For example, if there is a backdoor, you close it. If there is a patch you have to install, you do that. And yeah, you try to stop stop the attack from continuing. Then you recover. So you have if you look back 2 slides back, we have recovery. For example, you have backups, you have data recovery plans. Now you go into the step. So you need to recover your system, you bring it back to the operating stage, then lesson learned. Okay, so you go back and look at what really happened, why the system, why the incident happened, how did we behave, how did we, did we follow our plan, do we need to update, what can we learn from this happened, what happened recently to make the incident response better next time. All right. Go back to our industrial systems. So industrial systems, as we said, is they're different. So our objective is to add more layers security, industrial security, to keep the lights on the system functioning. So usually when we talk to customers, or not usually, sometimes when we talk to customers about their security, securing their industrial systems. So first thing we talk about identifying what systems need to be protected, how much investment they need to be putting in that security. Then you try to separate the systems logically into functional groups. For example, IT system from OT systems, you separate them from HR, you separate them from the vendor systems as well. Then you try to implement defense in depth and add more layers around your systems, control access between into each group and between the groups, monitor activities that happens between the groups and within each group, and limit the actions that can be done between the different groups and between people. So somebody needs only read access, you wouldn't give them write access. So try to limit the privileges of your employees to the minimum they need to complete their job. Okay, so here's something I did just to touch on how this might show up in research. So here's 2 slides about some recent research that I did last year. So I have an IoT environment, and the IoT environment, in this case, it's being targeted by an eavesdropper. So eavesdropper, let's call that Eve, is trying to sniff on the data being transmitted by this. Let me bring a pointer. All right, so this IoT device is being attacked by this eavesdropper. Eavesdropper is sniffing the communication of this IoT device that's sending to a destination. So it's kind of hard problem to solve in general, because the IoTs usually have limited resources. Like they don't have strong encryption, and they're like maybe cybersecurity controls around them are a bit weaker. So what did we think of? Why not employ the rest of IoTs to help with this? So what we did here, we use something called physical layer approach cybersecurity, which is a new and evolving concept in achieving cybersecurity, using the physical layer, which is the transmission of data. So we use those other IoTs. What they do is to jam, like cause interference on the eavesdropper. So when this eavesdropper is being like having outages in their system, they are not able to decode the transmit signal of the targeted IoT device. So what we did in this work, we propose a like we reframe this problem into an information confidentiality problem, and we came up with a metric to measure information confidentiality, and we came up with an algorithmic approach for the IoTs to collaborate with each other to achieve the goal that we wanted, which is achieve information confidentiality in the presence of an eavesdropper. All right, then the other problem we looked at last time was the information availability. So information availability here is the other problem, which is I have an IoT that's sending its data to a receiver, then I have an adversary that's causing interference over the receiver. And this adversary is basically preventing the receiver from decoding the transmitted data. So again, given the limited resources those IoTs have, we came up with a solution to this problem where the other IoTs collaborate with the impacted IoT by retransmitting some of its data back. So enhancing the signal level at the receiver of this impacted device. So by prepping up the signal level, the receiver was able to decode the transmit signal even with the presence of with the presence of an adversary who's jamming the receiver. So again, we reframe this problem into an information availability problem. We use what we learn from information availability angle to solve this problem. We came up with a metric to quantify information availability, because there is no such thing or wasn't there something to quantify this, at least in the setup. Then we proposed an algorithm for those IoTs to collaborate with the one that's being impacted. Then their objective was to reduce the impact of the interference on the IoT device, at the end achieve information availability during this attack. All right, so what are the opportunities you can think of that are currently in the market, especially for students on the call? Right, so the IoT is one of the examples that it brings a new thing to the cybersecurity. So cybersecurity now, it's an evolving approach to threats and system. So as technology evolves, so challenges and opportunities in cybersecurity evolve as well. So for example, AI. So AI now, people talk about AI, but it's being used in to detect unauthorized activities. So IoT devices being used right now or have been used in attacks, being botnets. And cloud systems. So cloud systems, our systems are housed or hosted outside the organization. That brings new challenges to the organization. So physical security doesn't really apply here, because the system is hosted somewhere else, maybe even outside the country. So you could have security measures in your organization, but you're really under the mercy of your host to implement security measures on your data, right? And this complicates things. All right. Similarly, the legal aspect of cybersecurity evolves as well. So there are various laws and regulations that govern what we do and what we can do, and the storage and the protection of data. These laws and regulations are not the same in the US, in Canada, in Europe. So organizations have to navigate this. Compliance is really crucial. So if you don't comply with the regulations, you might get fines, or they prevent you from working. Also, as an employee who's working in this field, you have ethical responsibility, not to misuse the data you are trusted to protect. So is there anything left for me as a graduate, a student who's going to graduate soon, with all of those evolving, with this evolving nature of, attackers and solutions and technologies? On the left, I have the screenshot from a couple of years ago, the amount of companies that work in web security, risk and compliance, data security. The amount is huge. So the global cybersecurity is set to grow by over 300 billion by 2024. So I had this study from a couple of years ago. So 300 billion. Definitely there is something for you. And by 2019, there was almost 3 million cybersecurity jobs that were vacant. So they definitely need people like you. So what can you do as a student? Develop technical skill, focus on an industry, and bring a new angle. So I cannot tell you how many different teams I worked with, and not all of them are technical people. Some of them, they have legal background. Some of them, they have organization background. Some of them, they have technical background. Some of them have like research background. So everybody can bring something to the table. And we also, with this evolving cybersecurity threat, so we need people with different mindset to attack problems from, bring new angle to attack issues. For example, with complex innovation, so for example, we need to look at, cybersecurity, cyber physical angle to security, integrated awareness and coordinated mitigation. So we have advanced and persistent threat actors. They will get access to the system at some point. Defense in depth. So CIA might not be the one, CIA approach might not be the one that will work for our system. So we might need to focus, for example, safety, reliability, and availability. And yeah, so there are many angles that you guys can contribute to cybersecurity. All right. So this is the end of my presentation. And, I just want to say to students on the school, if each journey is different, so you don't have to be technical or spend like 20 years to contribute to this field. Each journey is different. Building your experiences to bring something unique to the table and embrace change. Don't seek comfort because, with seeking comfort, you can slow down. But as you embrace change, you learn new skills, you find new opportunities. You can contribute. And that's it for this presentation. Thank you for the time.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Farraj. Appreciated it. All right, we have some. Yep. Thank you, Dr. Els. I have to run to another meeting. I appreciate you being here. I will drop into the chat that we will be posting this. We'll be posting this to our YouTube channel, which I've put the link to in the chat. I think that's right. And or you can just search for Texas A&M University-Texarkana Honors Program on YouTube. With that, let's open it up to any questions that anyone has. You can either raise your hand or you can just unmute and ask. Either one works. I'll give a little bit of time before I ask my questions.
I don't have a question, but I guess I was shocked by what you said, the amount of vacancies in the field, that there's so much opportunities for students. I think that's just, phenomenal, I guess.
I think it's an amazing time to be in this field. And you don't have to be technical. As again, you can join this movement. You can start working in this field even if you are not technical. And I can give you many examples of people I worked with in cybersecurity who are not technical. One time I had my director in the job was an elementary school teacher. She was bringing organizational skills to make sure everybody does their job. So definitely there is a room for many of us in this field. I just want to make an announcement, by the way.
Yeah,
so in the summer, this summer, we will be having at RELLIS, we will be having cybersecurity training for students, and it's going to be funded by government agencies. So we are looking for students. So definitely, if this is something of interest to you, reach out to anybody on the school, like from students. Reach out to us, and we will send you the right information. So definitely, we're looking for students from Texarkana and from RELLIS who are interested in this field and who can benefit from this internship. It's paid work, so you will really benefit from that.
Awesome, thank you. I had a question, and
yes.
As a I'm a medieval historian by training, so cybersecurity wasn't a huge deal, though they did have some cryptographic stuff that was interesting.
Right.
I'm curious about the intersection of AI and cybersecurity. I was listening to something on the BBC a few days ago about hackers kind of turning to using AI tools for the efforts to kind of break into systems and such like. So I don't have any particular question on that.
Right.
Just could you speak more to that intersection?
Right. So think about attackers, I would say usually or many times they try to attack the weakest link in the system. unfortunately, many times it's a human element. So, so, you know, a phishing email might look fishy to you, like last year, but if you use AI, the email is gonna look more, you know, convincing. So you definitely you could use those AI tools to come up with more convincing stories to encourage people to click on links, or even, you know, bring data where the story is just more complete, and they're gonna sell you something, you know, and make you believe that, you know, they are the legitimate you know, HR or something. That's number one. Number two, given the amount of information available, you can come up with new security attacks. Like if we go back to this slide, I don't know if you can still see my slides.
Yep.
Yeah, so here, so like exploiting vulnerabilities, right? So exploiting vulnerabilities, there are always ways to find new vulnerabilities. Like whenever there's an update to the system, new vulnerabilities will show up. So those AI tools, you know, you can program them literally to, you know, scan and do all of that stuff. So they can help you with the human element part. So it's part of the game. So they are being used by attackers, also being used by defenders. So, you know, it's again, as I said, it's race against time. So it's being used by attackers. Now it's being used by defenders as well. So you have to you have to stay on top of the game. Otherwise you will lose.
Fair enough. Yeah, I like the idea that as more of us turn to AI to write those emails and such like, that we may be, yeah.
Right. So, you know, so you won't see those grammar mistakes soon, right? On those emails, right? It's probably is going to be look more like legitimate email. So,
Right. Okay. Any other questions or comments or anything? Going once. Twice, three times. Okay. In that case, thank you again, Dr. Farraj. It was very interesting. I know that some of my students who couldn't be here today will have already expressed interest in watching it later. So you may get some questions via email and such like. And otherwise, yeah, if there's any last thoughts you have, I'm happy.
Thank you very much. If you want to share my email with the students, I'm happy to answer their questions. Definitely happy to do it.
Thank you much. Appreciate it.
All right. You have